Hey, War Gamers, this is Grossmaster666 bringing you a battle report between my Hail Caesar battle report with my uh, Marian Reforms army against a Carthaginian army. We set this at 400 points. Let you take a look at the we have here on my Roman left is one cohort of legionary infantry, small 3 units of allied Spanish Scutari, standard size, no pilot. 1 unit of Gaelic Allied Cavalry standard size, 1 sub-commander, leadership 8. Roman Center is my general's division, he's leadership 9. 5 cohorts of infantry, legionary infantry, small units, 1 small unit of Gaelic Allied Cavalry, 1 Scorpion. The Roman Right division is 1 sub-commander, leadership 8. 4 cohorts of legionary infantry, small units, 1 small unit of Gaelic Cavalry, and 1 Scorpion. Now let's take a look at the Carthaginian army. On his right, we have a sub-commander, leadership 8, 2 units of Scutari, and 2 units of Catrate, and small units. And in his center is general, leadership 8, 1 unit of slingers, small unit, 2 units of Libyan heavy infantry with long spears, standard size. 1 Libyan veteran heavy infantry, long spears, phalanx, and tough fighter. Yeah, they scared me a lot today. And the Carthaginian left center, 1 sub-commander, leadership 8, 4 units of Gaelic warbands. And then on his far left, he had 1 sub-commander, leadership 8, and 4 units of medium cavalry. Let's go ahead and take a look at how we all deployed units. All right, on my Roman right flank, I had to the far right, I had my Gaelic Allied Cavalry, small unit. Then I had my 4 cohorts of Roman Legionary Infantry. The sub-commanders behind with the little red shield. And then in front of them is the Scorpion. And up at the top right, you can see the cavalry unit. That's part of the general's division. We jump here to the center. You see just to the left that in the corner of that unit, that cavalry unit. And then we have our 5 cohorts. And then we have the general himself on his big base. And then we have one more Scorpion. And why it's turned and faced that direction, I have no idea. And then over here on my Roman left, this is where I have all my Scutari with spears, no pylon. And then I have my standard cavalry unit and standard size cavalry unit, and 1 unit of legionary infantry cohort small unit. Over here on the Carthaginian right, he's got his Catrate, 2 units of Scutari, and then another unit of Catrate, and all the way back in the back is his sub-commander. And his Roman center is Libyan heavy infantry with long spears, his slingers, and then you can see his generals behind, and his veterans are in the middle, and off to their flank is another unit of Libyan heavy infantry with long spears. We have on this side is kind of his left center. He has a commander leadership 8, obviously, and we talked about that, and then his 4 Gaelic war bands, and then to the far left was his big cavalry division, which I have to take credit for because I asked him to try this out, and well, be careful what you wish for because you just might get it. And then his 4 units of uh, Gaelic medium cavalry. All right, turn one. I passed my orders by just 1, so we kind of moved up. And as you can see, I moved that 1 legionary cohort kind of behind the other one. And again, I have no idea why I did that. I should have just went straight forward. I have no clue. I was thinking, I don't know what I was thinking. I think as I sit back and review this, I don't know what other tactical plan I had. Probably none. And in my center, like I said, as I passed it by 1, uh, we just kind of make a standard little bitty move up. And then over here on my auxiliaries, they failed their leadership and they just stayed on his left. Yeah, they passed their leadership by 3 and just flew across the board. I mean, just right now, right up in my business. and they were able to make contact with my cavalry unit, which, I moved them out one move. I thought, you know, maybe get into a position on turn. If I get lucky, maybe I can get up there and spoil their movements and stuff. But I don't know. It didn't work out. And you can see his other two units of cavalry are right up in front of the other cohorts there. In the center, uh, well, not the center, his left center, let's say, it moved forward. His gate advance just moved forward one movement. That's an awful lot of guys. And then in his center, his general, he failed his orders twice on an 11. It's, yeah, every game has that part of the game that you just cringe when it happens, and then hail Caesar your orders with your general's big fighty division, and it just sits there. Over here on his right, his Spanish allies, they pass their leadership test and they move forward one movement. Okay, back over to the right again. We have in the combat, my cavalry were beaten and they fall back all disordered, and so we're looking forward to our turn and maybe a little redemption. And let's see here. Yeah, my Roman turn two. Uh, I take. I don't know why I did. I mean, I took all three of these cohorts into that lead cavalry, and in my mind, I'm thinking, okay, that's an awful lot of attacks. I got the charge. I got pylons. I'm gonna hit this one hard. I'm gonna drive it back. His other units are gonna have to give way or move left or move right, and I may or may not stay in. I probably would stay in contact because it is my turn to stay in contact with him, but it depends on what he does with his unit moving out of the way. Obviously, I couldn't give any orders to my cavalry because they're disordered, and my far left cohort it just moves up to help protect the flank of the big combat that's going on over here on the right. Yeah, here we go, and it's a very disappointing combat phase because it's a draw. All 9 attacks. I got 5 for the combat unit, and then the 4 for the supporting small units, and it's a draw. That's very disappointing. Very disappointing. Such ways of the dice. And this is, he finally got his general's division to move forward one. This is where I moved forward. It's kind of the end of turn two. We just stood there, looked at each other, said nasty back and forth at each other. Over here on the left, you see where I moved up, and then he just stayed there on the hill. I think he fails his orders test to move forward again, and I mean I think he was all right with that. He's got the high ground. Okay, back over here on my right, his left big cavalry unit slams into my cavalry again, and yeah, wow, yeah. End of my turn, the cavalry's gone. It wasn't a big surprise once they got across the table. I kind of figured that they'd get beat because it's a small unit against a standard unit. A standard unit's going to get support. Yeah, I kind of figured they'd be lost, but man, I just didn't think they'd get across the table that fast and beat them that quickly. Of course, it was historically accurate. Roman cavalry efforts at that point in time weren't the best. Our fight in the center still went on. I just could not break him. And then he got in his part of turn two. He got his other cavalry unit to come up into support. So in the center, again, we're just sitting there looking at each other, bad intent. Again on the left, no action. It was crazy the number of failed orders and individual orders that were made. Yeah, Carthaginian part two. It's still a draw. We're just, I mean, I should have been doing much better than this, but the dice were just not with me. And over here, you can see where the Carthaginian infantry has charged into my left cohort of my right division, and supported. So this is going to be a struggle. I need to have them hold so I can win this combat, and at least push this cavalry off and get it disordered or something. It's just there's just too much over here now. Yeah. Well, we succeed in holding them back. All right. At the end of the combat phase, this is the way it looks. Again, stuck. My three cohorts are stuck with these Gaelic cavalry guys. So it's amazing. They should have beaten these guys and they didn't. But the one bright spot here, cohort that was able to beat that those two units of Gaelic warbands and make them fall back. Excuse me, I had to get a drink of water. I didn't pursue them. This is where when you're playing a game, there's certain things in the game that you kind of try to twist to your advantage, and this is one of them. As when they fell back, I had my choice of staying in contact with them. We're waiting because this is his turn to two, so I decided, or I think that's wrong up there. Oh yeah, yeah, that's I think that's wrong. That's his turn of three, I think, or turn of two, and I was able, and I'm waiting to yeah, right. That would be my turn. I beat. He beat. He came into me, and this is showing you where I'm preparing to charge him with my Roman cohort, because on my turn, well, obviously I get the charge and the charge bonus, and I get to throw my pylons again, and you know I have the advantage of hitting, and so that's why I didn't stay in contact with them when they fell back. Over here in my general's division, in my center, I finally get some action going. And I charge at an oblique angle to try to bring uh, more of my guys into combat with his weaker Gaelic warbands and try to get them uh, at least disordered and pushed out and break up his battle line before I have to deal with his Libyan heavy infantry. But I did have to send in two of my cohorts against one of his Libyan heavy infantry. And if you see to the left of that, that's where his big phalanx of veterans are. I really didn't want anything to do with that too early, but you know, it's coming. I'm going to have to deal with it one way or another. So over here, again, I only made like one move, and what I decided to do was try to turn these bottom two units, the cavalry and the cohort, to try to move to the right, because when I obliquely moved my general's division to the right, I left a big gap between my left division and my center division. I'm just thankful that he didn't have a bunch of cavalry and have a bunch of guys pass orders by any at all, or they'd have been right up in between the two, and it would have been lights out for one of them real quickly if he'd have been able to do that. Over here, again, remaining in contact. This you see on my this is the turn where I've charged that left cohort up into his Gaelic warbands again, and this stupid combat goes on. The only question I have is I don't know why he didn't do it. I think he was just waiting to see what's going on, but he didn't readjust his other two Gaelic cavalry. Could be he just forgot, and I think that we'd kind of forgotten about the unit. We kind of were so into the game where the things were happening at this point in time. We kind of messed up on a few things like the proximity rule and that sort of thing. But we'll get to that here in a few. Yeah, this is disastrous. This is disastrous. The three Roman cohorts are broken by the Gaelic cavalry. This is horrible. A whole division is now broken. Now the one unit up at the top left of this screen was part of this division. We talked about it and we decided that they were probably so far away that they had not recognized the danger yet, that the disaster had befallen their comrades at this point in time. So we left them in combat just as a, kind of one of those things that they wouldn't have seen it right away. So we kind of left that one in the game, as it were. But But yeah, we've got now we got four free Gaelic medium cavalry units with nothing in front of them but a scorpion, and that scorpion has to start making its way off the table because it's part of the division that got destroyed. Yeah, it's not going to be good. Over here in the middle, in my center, the combat's brutal and it's ongoing. Uh, I couldn't get as much damage to them as I would have liked. I mean, I really did. I wished I could have, but it didn't happen. All right, over here. Oh, this is still the center. After that combat phase, my the one Gaelic warband you can see that was in contact with the cohorts, it got destroyed because it was pushed back into an ongoing cohort combat that couldn't make way for it. Couldn't get out of its own. It couldn't get out of its way, and he moved the other because this picture's kind of deceiving. It was at more of an angle than when we fought the combat, and so after the combat, I reshuffled my guys. Now this is maybe one of those points in the game where I made a mistake and didn't employ, let's say, the proximity rule. Because if you look, that heavy infantry unit, Libyan heavy infantry with spears, yeah, long spears, is probably within 12 inches of both of my cohorts on the right. And so I don't know. I think I probably should have had to turn them to face that unit rather than turn to face the Gaelic cavalry. I mean, as far as the rules go, it felt like the right thing to do was to turn and face the Gaelic cavalry, but I think the rules would have overrode my decision making on that process. I probably should have had to turn to face that heavy infantry unit because of the proximity rule. Yeah, this is where I get a lot of the attention from that Libyan veteran heavy infantry phalanx with tough fighters. They come charging into the flank of that far left cohort. Um, his one war band charged up and got into combat with the other cohort, and that's where we're sitting right now. Okay, yeah, this shows where his cavalry are finally had made their orders and have charged up close. Now, this is where I thought what he did was fairly clever, um, intentionally or unintentionally, because we talked about the proximity rule after all this had been done. Uh, what's going on now is that everything that's within 12 inches of that cavalry has to turn and face it. So I'm in the wrong position to really go and assist the two cohorts that are fighting the two big units of Libyan heavy infantry. Yeah, that's not good for me. That's not good for me at all. Yeah, yeah. This is so. Yeah, I don't know what I'm going to do here. This was a tough one. I sat there and looked at it. How in the world am I going to get out of this mess? Okay, over here. Uh, this is after the combat phase. Um, as you can see, the Libyan heavy infantry fell back. It was a really close combat. I think I could probably won it by one, and he had this really abysmal roll, and so they had to fall back. But they fell back in good order and stuff, so it wasn't horrible. And yeah, so things would have been much worse, much worse here. Over here on the left, still not much happening. He did get the rest of his center to try to break up, and they're coming to the flank of my far left division. Again, that gap, as you can see, is huge. I'm kind of fortunate that it's just infantry in there. If you'd had any sort of mobile troops to get around that flank, it would have been toast. it would have been toast in a hurry. Yeah, I don't know what would happen, but it was. I'm just kind of glad it wasn't there. Yeah, and yeah, just kind of a standoff now. I mean, they're kind of glaring at each other. We kind of laughed, and that they're all Spanish troops on this side of the table, both his and mine. We're kind of thinking, well, they may. I think there's some treachery going on there. They're not very enthusiastic about the fight. Okay, back to the center. Big, big. This is where the Carthaginians launch back in. Oh no, no. This is where I launched my attack at them after they fell back. Yeah, and you can see that I've moved my one small cavalry unit up behind the Libyan heavy infantry. And the reason I did that, I was thinking, well, it worked once where I was able to push a unit that wasn't really in that bad of straits into a unit and have it get destroyed. So that's what I was looking to try to pull off here again. But again, I underestimated just how tough these Libyan heavy infantry, especially the veterans with phalanx rule, really are. I mean, to get them to actually even test, you got to beat them by 3 or more. Well, that's pretty hard to do. That's pretty hard to do when they have a 4-up morale save. You see that one unit is already shaken. A lot of my unit and the other unit next to it is close to being shaken. Um, that's the one bad thing about small units without a lot of support around is that with a stamina of 4, they become shaken fairly quickly if you don't have a really high morale save. At, but that's what you give up for the mobility and the ability to turn and to face and being able to work in a little bit more confined spaces than the very large phalanx type units. You see where he at the top right of the screen, you can see that one cohort is gone. The last remnants of the my far right division. It was beaten by the cavalry unit that is now in combat with the Roman cohort that has taken 1 point of damage. Um, so yeah, this looks great though. This is why I don't know about everybody else out there, but this is why I play is for stuff like this. This is the best part of wargaming right here. This is it. This is what you want to see. This is what you want to be involved in because it's just so epic looking. You know, we're getting surrounded. We got people all over the place. Just enemies everywhere. Come on. This is great. This is exactly what I like. Okay. Yeah, on this turn 4 combat, yeah, you can see where I pushed back. Actually broke the one unit of Libyan heavy infantry with my cohort, but it's still shaken, and I was able to push back one of the cavalry units. They backed up in good order, but I was able to break them off. But because of the proximity rule, I have to be faced up with those guys. So yeah, it's not looking good for. I had some success, but I'm not leaning toward having a whole lot of hope here for this. All right, things finally get going over here, and we finally get the left division in. His Scutari charged my Scutari. I think he tried to do some at one point did individual orders on his Catrati, and they failed. But the center was able to get one unit of that heavy Libyan infantry into my Scutari with spears, and just trying to get some pressure so I can get over there and close that big gap that's on my left, between my left and my center. Okay, here we go, back to the center again. Gosh. Of course, I say back to the center again. I've only got a left and a center since my right has been already been had its shit shoved in. So yeah, so this is easy. I go left and I go to the center. I go back to the left and I go back to the center. Okay, so over here, if you see that it's an ongoing combat, it's just becoming an act of attrition now. Everything's just battling it out. This is where as I sit back and I critique this, and I do this every time I'm I do a battle report, and I look at this, and I think, at some point I should have thrown my general into to one of these combats, and tried the, desperate attempt to uh, tip the scale somehow. Because if you look at this bottom of the screen, I've got both of his cavalry units are disordered. They're shaken. My guys are shaken. That being able to tip that balance just a little bit might have changed the game. I had, for no reason I can think of right now, that I didn't use my general better. You know, yeah, I messed that one up bad. It looks like. All right. At this point in time, I decided to move the one victorious cohort up towards the flank of that war band. Um, and then I moved my general around to join the cavalry. Again, I'm hoping to just, all I gotta do is get them to, I don't care whether I, you know, do a lot of damage to them. All I gotta do is get them to fall back, just fall backwards into my units, and that big Libyan unit is gone. And that's going to free up a lot of assets for me to go someplace else. But I don't know. That's an awful tough nut to crack. We do have them shaken though, but we're shaken, so that's a wash. So you got heavy infantry on heavy infantry, and one standard size unit against a small unit. I think eventually the dice will out. Numbers will out eventually. But it's still, I don't know. I just think this looks great. All these guys all around my Romans, and my Romans are hanging in there. If I could just get some help on my left, we could salvage this. Okay, on the left, on turn, I had a flank charge into his Scutari with another unit of my Scutari. Then I moved my cavalry up to support, and I used my my legionary cohort to support the other unit of Scutari that's fighting the other Libyan heavy infantry. Yeah, so we're throwing it all in here on the left, trying to get this thing broken. So I mean, I got to, within the next turn or two, I have got to get over here to the center, or I'm in some serious trouble in this game, because it's getting close to the breaking point for my center division. I don't know why this picture's so strange. I keep thinking, I have no idea. I wonder if I edited something, or I don't know. Looks different though. Uh, in the center, you can tell the one cohort I was relying on to push those veterans back didn't happen. Didn't happen. They got beaten and broken. So he turned his veterans around to face my general and the cavalry, which that is a lost cause. I gotta, that's not something that you want to be facing, is a phalanx of long spears with cavalry to the front. It just, there's a lost cause. Yeah. And over here, again, you can see the damage is mounting. The damage is mounting up on my cohorts. They're just not going to be able to hold much longer. I mean, you get to 8 with a small unit, and you're broken. And you can see I've got a 6 down here at the bottom, a 5, and another 5. So I mean, it's getting close. It's getting close. It's a great battle. It's back and forth. I mean, it's not, nobody's giving any ground. There's a lot of draws going on, and yeah, it's pretty cool. I mean, it's cool. His numbers of attacks against my morale save, um, and all of us being shaken and disordered, and yeah, it's a good game. Okay, over here on the left, on his turn, you see the two dice. His white dice there. That's his orders roll. So yeah, his division order was well passed. So he takes his Catrate, and he's charging one unit into the rear of my Scutari on the left, and on my right, he's charging one of his smaller units of Catrate into the flank of my Scutari. Now, I'm not too worried about it because they're an open order and everything. and I'm heavily supported on both. So I think that's going to be kind of a wash. It's going to come down to the main combat units. The thing, it's just going to take time, and I'm running out of time. Sorry about the blurry photo again. We're just I was going to show a closer close up of the action, but blurry. But that just shows the charges again. Okay, on the left on that turn, what happened was his Catrati, both were beaten, and they had the fallback. One was fell back off the table. We pushed his Scutari. They lost. We pushed his Scutari back up the hill. Everything's still unsupported. Everything's still locked down. Uh, one tactical thing I think I should have done was that I had this. If you look this cohort unit, it was originally more over to the right, supporting the other Scutari, the far right Scutari. Instead of keeping them together and using them to work in unison, I broke them up and sent this to try and break these Spanish on the hill. Because I thought breaking the Spanish on the hill would have probably been the easier of the two tasks than trying to get them in to support the over with the Libyan veteran heavy infantry with long spears. Yeah, I thought, well, we can take care of these because I'm heavily supporting my units and he's not, and I've got 2 units in, he's got 1 unit plus support, I got 2 units plus support. I thought it should have been a done deal. I thought, well, but I've been thinking that all game with some of my tactics, and none of them have turned out. The one Scutari unit that was fighting his other heavy infantry with long spears, they broke them, and on my turn, I moved over to support my army general in their charge to the front against Libyan long spears. Yeah, veterans to the front. It wasn't wise, but at this point in time in the game, it's Roman turn 6, and my center is going to collapse. I had to throw caution to the wind. I had to go do something bold. Well, bold didn't work out for me. As you can see, that the one cohort up here at the top, I charged them into this Gaelic war band, hoping beyond all hope to break that because I haven't had much problem with the Gaelic war bands with my cohorts, and I was hoping to use that small cohort to break that war band, drive it back into the other 2 war bands that are behind them, and destroy it, dropping it down below 50%. But actually, when I look at it, that wouldn't be below 50%. I made a mistake. It was bad judgment. I shouldn't have done that. That was a useless gesture. Even if I would have won that combat and broken that unit, that division is still at 50%. So looking at it now and kind of critiquing my actions, yeah, I made a mistake there. Okay. So with that being said, they charged in, they were beaten, and they broke, which that did drop my general's division below 50% and caused the game to end right there with the rest of my guys. If they had a lick of sense, they would run off the table. So I've got in my general's division, I just had his one small cavalry unit left, a Scorpion, which doesn't count towards that, and this one cohort left in the middle of the screen there, both disordered and shaken. Which, after seeing everybody else get swamped and that sitting in front of you, yeah, I'd be shaken too. So, but it was a great game, a great game. I really enjoyed this. I love the way it looked on the table, and I love the way it played out. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun. Victory, Carthage.